But it's definitely true.
Flowers.
Oh my God.
Can't do that one.
The quinona is not gonna,
Yeah, the quinona doesn't fit that
doesn't fit there.
Okay, you ready?
Can't
So
swallow
it was really
it.
great to drive up through all that snow because after
Not much, yeah. It's all gone.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Fort Schuyler Management Corporation Board meeting. I'd like to start by welcoming all the directors that are here. Thank you for coming, and for starters, thank you for your service to this board. I'd also like to recognize Kevin Eunice, who's here with us. He's the Chief Operating Officer for Empire State Development. Thank you for coming, Kevin. Emily Quinchala is here. Thank you, Emily, for joining us. Emily is from the Research Foundation. I'd also like to ask any directors if they have a potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on today's agenda to please identify that so we can make sure that you are recused. Let's start by approving the minutes of December 13th. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes with a second.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Bob. So moved. The Audit Committee report, I'd like to ask for a motion to consider resolution number 170, approving FSMC financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Kristen. The bylaws require that Fort Schuyler has financial records and accounts be audited annually by a certified independent accounting firm designated for such purposes by the board. The audit was conducted by KPMG, a certified independent accounting firm designated for such purposes by the board, and a draft audit was submitted to the audit committee. Martin Dunbar, who is here, yes, Marty Dunbar is here, was the auditor partner in charge of the audit. He has met with the FSMC Audit Committee, on February 23rd to review the 2017 financial statements, audit, and related observations. Key elements of the audit include a clean audit opinion will be issued. Financial statements include all required disclosures under the standards. No significant changes in the contents of the financial statements as compared to the past. KPMG indicated they received the full cooperation from management throughout the process. KPMG highlighted internal control observations which primarily relates to the need for senior level financial resources. For example, a CFO at Fort Schuyler, which will also serve for the Fuller Road Board. Management is actively pursuing the hire of such a person, which should significantly address any control gaps identified by KPMG. The FSMC Audit Committee adopted a resolution recommending that the board approve the 2016-17 audit. I'd like to ask if there's any comments or questions with regard to that audit. Anyone? So I'd like to ask for a motion to approve Resolution 170, approving the financial statements for the year ended June 30th. Any with ayes? Any ayes? No ayes?
Motion to approve.
Approved.
Second.
Second. I'd like to ask for a vote. Is everybody with ayes? Nays?
Aye.
Ayes?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Next is a Finance Committee report. Kristen Proud will take us through resolution number 171.
Thank you, Bob. FSMC wishes to enter into a contribution agreement with a corporation called NextGen and ESD. The proposed contribution agreement provides that the parties will work together to establish a manufacturing and research development center for NextGen on property that is owned by FSMC and located in the town of DeWitt in Onondaga County. NextGen is a corporation that is developing and manufacturing power transistors for the power electronics industry. NextGen will maintain all of its manufacturing services and its research and development services in this building in DeWitt, where it intends to manufacture gallium nitride-based semiconductors for power electronics. At this point, I'll turn it over to Bob Megna to describe the contribution agreement in more detail.
Thanks, Kristen, and I'll give you the highlights if I can. So pursuant to a contribution agreement, ESD will provide grant funding for the improvements to the building and the purchase of manufacturing equipment. NextGen has agreed to enter into a long-term lease for the facility from FSMC, and also will agree to create 577 permanent full-time high-technology jobs within 10 years of the rent commencement date of the lease. With these jobs anticipated to have an average aggregate gross wage of $51,000 per year or more, most of whom are expected to be recruited from the Syracuse area. NextGen will also enter into a lease with FSMC, pursuant to which NextGen will lease the entire building located at 50 Collimer Crossings Parkway in the town of DeWitt, as was mentioned by Kristen. The building includes approximately 14 acres of land and a soon-to-be completed building, which consists of approximately 66,550 rentable square feet, together with a mechanized mezzanine of approximately 15,700 square feet. NextGen will be the sole tenant. The lease, and this is, I think, important progress we're making. The lease requires NextGen to pay all of the ongoing costs associated with the building, including all utilities, insurance, property and school taxes, maintenance, and ongoing services, and any other expenses of the building. The rent for the first year of the lease will be $1, and the rent for the next 7 years will escalate from $90,000 in the second year to $622,080 in the 8th year. And again, I think this is an improvement over some past projects, in that while there is a significant discount for NextGen in the early years, we are working up to market rates moving into the future. For the 9th and 10th years of the lease, an appraisal of the rent will be obtained, which will establish the rent for those 2 years. The lease has a 10-year term with an option for NextGen to renew for an additional 10 years. If NextGen exercises the option for an additional 10-year term, the rent will increase 3% per year based on the rent in year 10. New York State has received grant funds for the construction of the building, together with the acquisition of the land and site preparation. There will be some additional costs incurred to complete the building and make improvements needed by NextGen. These costs will not exceed the amount of the grant funds already available for this project, and they will be presented to the board at a future meeting. NextGen has obtained a $15 million grant from ESD, with which it will purchase manufacturing equipment for this purpose. The equipment will be transferred to FSMC and owned by FSMC during the period of the lease. Information required to be provided by FSMC's acquisition and disposition of real property policy is included in the materials that was provided to the board. FSMC President Robert Megna and Interim Contracting Officer Scott Bateman approved this transaction. In addition, the President and CEO of Empire State Development, Howard Zemsky, consents to the lease, finding that the purpose is within the mission of FSMC and there is no reasonable alternative that would achieve the same purpose. And so with that information, we are requesting the approval of Resolution 171.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Kristen?
Just a quick question and then a comment. Just to be clear, the equipment that will be purchased with the $15 million grant is to be titled to FSMC, but maintained by NextGen, is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a vote to approve resolution, I need a motion to approve Resolution 171, authorizing the President and/or Treasurer to enter into a contribution agreement with NextGen and ESD, and enter into a lease with NextGen, and take the necessary actions to implement the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second?
Kristen, thank you. Now I'd like to ask for a vote on the motion to approve Resolution 171 with ayes and nays and abstentions.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution passes. Now I'd like to ask if there's any new business or comments that anybody would like to make under the broad category of new business. And now I'd like to provide an opportunity for the public comment. Please introduce yourself and keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. Any public comment? Okay. This concludes our meeting. I'd like to introduce a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So moved. Second. All those in favor? And thank you for coming, and once again, thank you for your service to our board and to the state.
Thank you, Bob.